Hello and welcome everyone to yet another edition of the Sports Frenzy podcast. I'm Phil Pinarski, joined once again by our News 8 Sports correspondents, Dean Holzwarth and Andy McDonald. Thank you both so much for being here. Glad to see you guys back again. We've got a lot of important sports news to get to coming up in just a bit, but I feel like we've been pretty negative on this show in recent weeks, just talking about the Tigers, but I feel like maybe they're starting to take what we've been complaining about to heart, because they have won in their last 13 games. They've won 10 of them. They recently, as of today, as of this recording, just beat the Houston Astros 7-2 after that insane walk-off walk the night before in Detroit. So guys, I mean, just last week was a little bit different of a vibe from this team. Is that vibe kind of changed just from what we've seen over these past couple of games against the White Sox, the Twins, and now the Astros?
Yeah, I would say so. I think the vibe has definitely changed for this team. Like I think we kind of talked about in the past, they run on momentum completely. I mean, with these guys in this lineup, it seems like when one of them's clicking, all of them start to click. Like Gleyber Torres seems to be the only guy right now that's kind of lagging behind a little bit. Has been struggling to get out of it. But he's the one who had the walk-off walk, and he had 4 walks in the series. So it just seems like when everything's going right for this team, they found a way to make that work. Houston's also a team that, until the 2-run home run today, they hadn't scored a run in the last 4 games. So
right.
They're struggling like severely too right now. So like, again, for me, it's always a never get too high, never get too low kind of thing. I'm not trying to act like it's, all completely behind them, but I do think that, some of the problems that maybe we thought they had, maybe they're not as bad as it seemed when they lost 12 to 13 games. Then it kind of felt like the mojo, even when they did start to play 500 baseball, so I didn't feel like it was the same as it was earlier this year. These games feel like it was earlier in the season. This is the kind of team that if they do play like this going into the postseason, they could win the World Series. But it's all going to kind of come down to how they are at that time of the year, who's healthy, who's vibing. But when you got Will Vest pitching the 9th inning again, like he's pitching right now, it seems like he's most comfortable in that role. Really helps out. You can't deny what Finnegan's been able to do since he's come over here. I think I saw as of last night, the Tigers had the 6th best ERA since the trade deadline in baseball at 3.06. So something I've griped about plenty. They've been able to find a way to make it work. And if they can keep that up, that's great. We'll see how it goes against other competition in the future and as the season continues to get longer. But I think the very key thing for this bullpen is that the starting pitching has been able to get deeper into some games lately. I think it's been helping them get a little bit of rest. And even in a stretch they played, 13 out of 13 days, all of a sudden it looks like they've been able to get every single part of their game clicking again. So I give AJ Hinch a lot of credit for, going against his old foes this week and getting them again. And hopefully they're able to keep what they're doing right now on a roll, because they do finally have an off day on Thursday. So We'll see if that slows anything down or not. But right now they're rolling, that's for sure.
Dean, I mean, obviously that vibe, like Andy said, kind of shifting into, the greener pastures of being a Tigers fan. But how much, really, over the past week have you kind of flipped on this team?
I flipped really well. To me, like the guys are out there having fun now, right?
Right.
And I think we talk a lot. Andy's talked about. I've talked about that momentum, right? You start playing well, things start going good, and all of a sudden now your wins are kind of piling up. You're winning a series. So they've won 9 of 11. I think the biggest thing has been the bullpen. 24 straight scoreless innings by this bullpen that we have really talked about negatively through the last month now, that, hey, this bullpen's struggling. We picked up some guys and they weren't working out, whatever the case may be. So 24 scoreless innings over the last 8 games. Their ERA has dropped, I think, in July and early August. It was up over 5 ERA. Yeah. And then look at the starters. Look what Charlie Morton's doing. Look what obviously Scooble's doing. Just look what the starters are doing. They're going 6-7 innings now, and so now your bullpen's not being taxed as much. So now they're getting rest. So they're coming in, and I think all of that is just kind of combined to help the Tigers win. And if this continues, if you start getting performances like we saw from Flaherty the other night, from Charlie Morton, he's been great the 3 of the last 4 games. Paddock, obviously, he can't pitch against his former team because they just know his pitches. Right. So he's probably the only one that really has struggled. But you're getting contributions from that starting from the starters, and it's paying dividends right now.
Absolutely. Obviously the bullpen is the big story, and we've been focusing on it, as Dean said, kind of negatively over the past couple of weeks and really for much of the season. But the offense, to me, has also been, it's so good to see them kind of rejuvenated once again. The last couple of games, they've got 7 runs in today's game. They had 10 in the first game against Houston, 8, and 7 in the final 3 games against Minnesota. That's also kind of good to see with this team. It's everybody's kind of helping each other out now, and the momentum is just contagious really in that clubhouse right now.
Yeah, that's why for me the lineup was always kind of like the third worry. I felt like they overall they're not going to be as bad as they were playing during that 3-game stretch. When you're hitting that bad, it's usually going to change at some point. If you had any more success like earlier in the season, that's kind of showing right now. I mean, I don't want to get the 1-0 walk-off walk. I mean, Hunter Brown's one of the best pitchers in the game. The Tigers actually probably should have got to him a couple times. The Zach McKinstry triple that didn't score, and then Kerry Carpenter hit a line drive to first base that ended up being a perfect ball for a double play on a line drive. So they had a couple chances to score there too. So yeah, the offense is definitely clicking, but I think this is why it kind of comes back to, you were kind of talking about the starting pitching getting on more of a roll. I think this is why it's so big for just the pitching staff as a whole, including the bullpen, because they don't have to use as many of those arms. They don't have to use them all the time. And I think it's definitely showing how much it's helping right now. Some of these guys are getting deeper into games. And that's why I think Jack Flaherty is such a key piece of this team. I mean, they went out to get him earlier this season to kind of be a number 2 guy in this rotation. And what he did against Houston is what he's came here to do. That's what they paid him to do, is to be the number 2 guy in this rotation. If he can keep doing that going in the postseason, that's going to be huge for them, because then, you only got to find one out of the other 3 guys that works out, whether it's Casey Mize, Charlie Morton, Paddock. Obviously, you may not pick the right one on that 3rd day until you put Skubal back out there, but I like what you see out of Charlie Morton. He's got a lot of experience, and Casey Mize has had some good glimmers too this year of maybe he can be successful. So I think it's very key that, not just Tarek Skubal, but Jack Flaherty keeps up on this kind of pace, because when he pitches good, it seems like everything's going better for their team. They're able to get a win.
Yeah, 100%. I think the addition of Kerry Carpenter too, like him coming back,
huge.
he has just played really, really well. Hitting the ball hard, obviously home runs, and Dylan Dingler, Andy's boy, has been doubles and triples, and he's been playing
Should've
well.
had 2 triples today. He got robbed.
Yeah,
from the
so
gap.
like
I'm always watching. Right?
Yeah,
Right.
so the addition of, I think, Carpenter coming back to this lineup has kind of rejuvenated a little bit, in my opinion. And you just kind of look, and we talked about, all right, you played the White Sox, you played the Twins, but now you beat a division leader in Houston, right? And I understand how Houston's bats have been struggling, but still you beat them. And now you have Kansas City at home for 3 games, and they have jumped up into 2nd place, 9 games back of Detroit right now. So they've won 5 straight. So they've been playing well. So beating the good teams, I think, is something that's we kind of talked about. Like, hey, that's going to be important to just not beat your White Sox and your Rockies and your terrible teams.
Yeah.
Playing the good teams and beating them and winning series. That's going to be the most important thing.
And it is kind of glad to see that Cleveland is also kind of, their hot streak is ending a little bit too, kind of, flipping the script and everything like that. Again, they are in 3rd place right now. The Royals, though, they've won 5 straight and but still, again, 9 games back from the Tigers. So again, they still have that decent lead in the American Central, and I feel like that's going to be the key. You want to just continue to just maintain that lead, keep all the other teams at arm's length, get into the playoffs, and then just, keep up this momentum that you've been kind of growing this past couple of games.
Yeah, I mean,
now they have the best record in the American League again.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
So,
See?
I mean, earlier
Maybe
this
we overreacted.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, earlier in the season, it felt like maybe the AL Central was the best division in baseball, and then they all kind of started. Actually, what is funny, when the Tigers were playing bad, a lot of those teams were playing bad too. Cleveland just started to get hot towards the back end of that losing streak for the Tigers. But I mean, really, it's like if teams go through those kind of slumps, eventually they're going to probably get at least a little closer to where they were earlier in the season. And Kansas City has plenty of young talent. I think they could easily get that 3rd wild card spot. They keep playing this well, that's for sure. Or Cleveland.
Yep.
So
Yeah, definitely. All right, well, let's shift gears now. Again, we try to stay positive on this podcast, or I would have liked to, at least for most of this, but we do have some news to get to, and that being the recent punishments from the NCAA against the University of Michigan for the sign stealing scandal that, of course, really took over headlines last year. And during that championship run, we now have learned that the final punishments from the NCAA have been placed on the university, a $20 million fine. Coach Moore is going to be out for an additional game next season. They did allow the team to push that against next season, but that was really sort of the big punishments. There was talk that maybe they were going to strip the team of the national title, or there were going to be some scholarships revoked. revoked, or NIL maybe getting involved or something like that. That didn't happen. So before we kind of get more into, I guess, how we felt about it, I mean, as far as the actual punishment goes, I mean, does it feel fair to you guys? Do you think that this should be kind of let's put it to rest, let's put the story to rest and kind of move on? Or maybe does this beg also additional conversations about, did this go far enough, or maybe not, or maybe too far?
I think the punishment kind of fit, right? Like $20 million, right, is what they're going to have to pay for a fine. Sharon Moore is going to have to sit, one more game, 2 more games?
One more game in 2026.
One more game in 2026. So, I think for a Michigan fan, you just want it to be past us, right? Like it's just been so much, and I just think that it did kind of fit. Like they didn't have to, get a postseason ban. Like nothing like major really happened to them. They're going to make up that revenue. No big deal. It's Michigan. But what I found a little bit of alarming was in the report, like Connor Stalions, like I think he did lie a lot about some of the things that went on. Like I think he really did not tell the truth on Netflix, and in some of the reports I saw where he smashed his phone, he threw it into the pond, and then he was telling, they have it on I think a phone call audio message that he was telling another player, like you can lie to the NCAA all you want and you're not going to get in trouble. So like I think he was a little shady in this whole thing,
Yeah.
And that's what obviously prompted some of the sanctions.
Yeah, I don't really know what the fair punishment would have been for Michigan, I guess, because they already had so many suspensions back then. I mean, you go back to 2023, Harbaugh was obviously forced to sit out, I think it was like 3 games or something until he got to the playoffs, and they obviously were able to win every single one of those games. NCAA knew about the investigations going on and still allowed them to play in those games back then. I don't know if they were able to take him out of them or what it was, but the college football playoff, they weren't. And obviously that's like its own entity. It's not a part of the NCAA. So that they can't, it would have been very hard for them to take the national championship from Michigan. So that's kind of why I never thought that was going to happen. Wins being revoked, though, down the stretch against Penn State, that game, Ohio State was obviously a huge win that year for Michigan when they were able to get it done. I mean, you could go all the way back to 2021 where they could have took away wins. They didn't do any of that. I think the reason that they didn't is because maybe the NCAA, obviously people want to say what they want to say about it, and it's fair because their punishments have gotten less and less over the past bunch of years. Even when they do seem to catch people red-handed, like they definitely caught Michigan. I don't think there's any question that Michigan broke the rules, but this whole thing about saying Michigan is cheaters to me is just ridiculous because everybody does that kind of scouting. It's obviously at an advanced scouting level that was ridiculous. Connor Stalions broke the rules. There's no question about it. I mean, he definitely had that picture right there. Definitely was on the sideline. I don't know how anybody ever denied that wasn't a thing. You're just delusional or kind of saying that, obviously you're a Michigan fan at that point if you're saying that.
Right.
It clearly was what happened, but those games happened. Michigan beat Alabama. They beat Washington. They beat Ohio State. They did it with whatever side. They took away Connor Stalions. They took away Jim Harbaugh. They took away all the people during those games that were, obviously he was able to come back to the playoffs, but teams were able to switch their sides they wanted to. Michigan had all these things going against them. They still were able to win those games, and it happened when people knew that it was a thing. So for me, it would have been ridiculous if they would have taken any of it away from Michigan. The thing is, if you're a Michigan fan, you're never really going to be able to look at it as a clean national championship. It's just kind of the way that it was. To me, it is dumb that the rule is what it is with the advanced scouting with how much video technology there is today. I mean, you can watch anything on TV that's out there on live TV and find the same kind of signs as you could in person. I don't really know what major benefit that gives Michigan anyway.
Right.
But it was a rule. They did break it. So technically, there is going to always be something that every Michigan State fan, Ohio State fan is going to be able to bring up against Michigan fans in the future. And that's just rivalry banter, and it is what it is. But if you're Michigan in the record books, it's still there as national championship. I think the fines are plenty for a punishment, and it all kind of worked out maybe the way that it should have. Obviously, Michigan State fans, Ohio State fans will tell you a different thing, but that's where it stands. I think that's about as fair as it probably could have been.
Right. Well, and the thing that I always have been kind of focusing in on during this whole thing was just that kind of the both sides of it was that obviously something happened. There was cheating involved. Michigan was in the wrong for this. But to say that team wasn't talented enough to win a national championship or that they wouldn't have won it without it, I mean, you can't definitively say that. And then on the flip side, obviously these other fan bases are kind of coming in and saying, that doesn't really count as a national title or anything like that. But again, I still feel like while there is some wrongs here. I mean, there isn't really a whole lot enough, at least in my opinion, to take away that national championship. And, you're seeing all the kind of national pundits thinking that Michigan thinks that they're above the NCAA and that they're avoiding everything and they kind of got off scot-free. They didn't get off scot-free. I mean, there were still moments during this entire situation that Michigan was at a disadvantage, and they kind of beat those, I guess, in the sense that they beat these punishments by playing well on the field and showing up and, winning these games. So again, I mean, it really is just kind of, are you a Michigan fan or are you not? And that is just kind of, I guess, how people are going to view this whole entire situation in general.
I mean, it's understanding to me, like, why people think the Michigan fans can be arrogant and everything else. I mean, you look at, they're pushing back against this right now, and they got the punishment that they got. I mean, I kind of understand it from that scope, that why people would be upset about it. And, like, also, again, if you're just fans, like if you just go look at fan Twitter or whatever you follow your stuff on, it's a bunch of like, oh, we got away with it, and it's like a celebration, like whatever. It's like, well, what are you celebrating though? Like, if you don't think all these same people claim that they didn't cheat, right? If you didn't cheat, then why are you celebrating that you got away with it? It should just be like, oh, well, we still have our national championship trophy that we well deserved. I don't know. It's just it's going to be fan banter back and forth no matter what. I think at the end of the day, if you look at it, if you're a serious football person, there's no way you don't believe that Michigan won those games the right way. That's just kind of how I look at it. Maybe not the right way isn't the right way to put it. Just they won the games. Like on the field, they won those games.
It didn't give them a definitive, super big advantage.
Everybody does it. Everybody has somebody on their sideline. Been on plenty of college football sidelines in my life. Everybody is trying to look for those signs. Like they have people that hold the big signs up. There's a reason. There's 3 of them. They're trying to decipher it so people don't steal them. It's because Michigan went that far to break the rules, and a lot of people hate Michigan, and it is what it is. That's why I think it got pushed so hard against them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, is that maybe an additional element to this? Is just that Michigan is just such a ginormous brand, and you obviously have the Ohio State Buckeyes who are going to hate everything Michigan does, and you've got rivalries all across the Big Ten and teams that you beat in the playoff and kind of on the way to that national championship. I mean, everybody's going to claim that Michigan cheated to beat them. I mean, do we think that Michigan needed all of that extra help to beat, teams, not to degrade them or anything, but like if Michigan and Central Michigan faced off against each other, I would say most people probably are picking the Wolverines. So, I mean, again, do they have a say in saying, well, they wouldn't have beaten us if they didn't cheat or anything like that? So again, slippery slope either way
Michigan's
you look at
still
it.
beating Ohio State to this day. They just beat them last year. I mean, that's I think what will forever be annoying to every Michigan fan that exists out there is that people can say this at all because that team clearly did not need it. So that's why I don't understand when Michigan fans are like, "Oh, thank you, Connor Stallions." Like I don't get that part of it because he's
not
clearly
be praising him.
Exactly.
They would have beat Michigan State too. He's on the sideline for the Central Michigan State game. Really?
They beat him 49 to nothing that year. I was at that game.
There was no reason for him to even be there.
Sure.
And he wasn't giving Michigan more of an advantage by being there against a bad Spartans team.
I remember when that rule, or when that came out, the reports started to come out, it was that week of that Michigan State game, and they just went out there and absolutely rolled them, and the crowd hated it and stuff.
Right.
And it was just like, you can't tell me if you watch them on the field every game that's how many players are in the NFL now? Michigan is one of the best in the past 5 years of producing talent to get better at taking a bunch of 3-star. I saw that thing the other day from the guy from 247 Sports saying that Michigan's proved them wrong more than anybody else in the past whatever years of the talent they get, and they moved it to the NFL. That doesn't just those players are that good. They don't just get to the NFL and excel at that level because they cheated. Right. It's a dumb thing to say. But
and if you remember, they played with a chip on their shoulder through all of that. That controversy was going on. It was Michigan against everybody, and I think they kind of fed off that, and that kind of helped them win the national championship, right? Because they wanted to kind of prove everybody wrong, hey, we're not cheating, we're this talented, and we're going to go out and do it, and that's what we did.
They put them against Alabama in the first round. You'll never convince me anything else. They put them in the first round against Alabama to beat Michigan. Yes. They wanted Michigan to lose that game. I still think it's the only reason Alabama made the playoff that year. And when that game happened and Michigan won that, I said to myself, I'd never call him a cheater again. Because going up to that was kind of like everybody was putting in your ear. You kind of wondered, is this doing that much? Is it making that much of a difference? No way. They wouldn't have beat Alabama with that advantage, Right. So. Yeah.
Well, hopefully this kind of puts this situation to bed, but I can already hear the chants coming throughout the rest of this
Michigan didn't put
upcoming
it to
season.
bed, so it's going to keep going on.
Right,
I mean,
exactly.
months down the road from now, they're either going to get less money.
Years down the road.
Yeah,
Let's be honest.
exactly.
I
Who
feel
knows?
like,
Yeah,
they
exactly.
appeal, yeah.
It'll keep getting pushed back, so who knows? But
well, it's going to be funny come November if, whenever it does happen in Michigan eventually or does lose to Ohio State. I mean, those fans are going to let Michigan fans hear it.
yeah, no matter what, even if it's 2 years
down,
removed,
it could be
from
10
this
years
game.
from now, and they're going to be like,
They're
"Well,
never going to forget it.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
I will say this year's game is going to be pretty epic, I think.
Yes.
With all this just like finally coming to a rest, and it is where it is, and obviously Bryce Underwood and all that.
Yep, defending champs.
That's going to be something to look forward to, that's for sure.
Absolutely. It always is. All right. Well, sticking on the football train, let's move on now to the professional side of things with the Detroit Lions still in the preseason, getting ready for that first regular season matchup against the Green Bay Packers. They just played their third preseason game. Again, Lions are going to have 4 this preseason because they had to play in the Hall of Fame game. Lost to Miami 24-17. Any big takeaways you guys had from that game? Again, we're waiting for the actual regular season to start before, at least I am, before I make any conclusions about this team.
Yeah.
But preseason, again, another loss, another situation of just watching these backups and these secondary players kind of get in some action. And you got to think that a lot of these guys might be seeing the field during the regular season with just the injury luck that the Lions have faced over the past couple of seasons. Any initial thoughts you guys had from that game?
Not really. It's preseason. To
Exactly.
me,
it's hard to put too much emphasis
I'm just
on
not
everything.
really worried right now, right?
Yeah.
Like, none of the starters are playing, and obviously backups are playing. Your second and third strings are playing for, obviously try to get some playing time once the regular season and try to make the team. So that's what preseason is all about. So, the wins and losses don't even matter to me. I thought Miami actually played well after getting absolutely, apparently smoked during the dual practices. Michigan, or apparently the Lions lit them up throughout the week. So, the Miami quarterbacks played well. So, like I said, I'm not taking much stock in anything that happened in that game or even what happens on Saturday at Ford Field. So, obviously, I think if you went to the Lions game and it's the only chance you get to go, maybe you're a little disappointed, because you wanted to see them win. But in the end, it doesn't matter.
I think if you take anything away, it just goes back to the quarterback thing again. There's really nothing else to
Hooker's
look
done.
for. Yeah,
Yeah.
Like, I think with Hendon Hooker throwing only for 61 yards, 6 of 13, another interception, that's not going to get it done. I mean, and what Kyle Allen's been able to do with throwing a couple touchdowns, looking really clean. Seems like he's getting more and more comfortable with every week that he's in Lions camp. I don't think there's really any way you can deny that he's the backup quarterback for this team, going forward at this point. So,
Yep.
But yeah, as for the rest of it, I mean, I think if there's anything you watch in preseason, it's more like the individual battles. If somebody's going up against somebody, and the quarterback's kind of what I've been keeping the scope on, then Isaac Tesla's been someone to pay attention to because he's looked pretty good so far this preseason. But it seems like it's more like those joint practices that are what you want to pay attention to a little bit more because they play a lot more of their guys. But yeah, I don't know. It's it was awesome to hear the Lions had 2 of the most dominating practices you'll ever see against the Dolphins. But at the same time, last year, everybody said that about the Colts when they did that to the Lions. And Matt Ryan looked like flawless. And look how those 2 seasons turned out. So, yeah, it's really hard in the preseason to see things. I think it's more about getting through healthy, getting guys work, and then just getting the regular season. We're going to find out a lot more after the first couple weeks for the Lions. I wouldn't even take too much from the first game. It's really, with the new offensive coordinator, stuff like that, it's going to take a minute. I mean, you could even argue it would take up to 4 to 5 weeks to really know what this team's going to be in the future. And obviously by then, sometimes it can be too late, or maybe they're just that good and they pick up where they left off. I think it's all just going to come down to what you see in the first few weeks of the season.
Absolutely.
Yes. Side note: how many players have ever scored a touchdown in high school, in a stadium, and then went to the NFL and played in that stadium and scored a touchdown too?
That's
It doesn't
pretty cool.
happen. That was absolutely such a cool moment. I remember being there when Isaac scored that at Ford Field in high school for Unity Christian, and then to see him do that, I thought that was really, really cool.
He just keeps going off, man. I mean, I think at some point, even in your fantasy drafts that are coming up here, you got to start to think about as a 14th, 15th round guy.
Yeah.
I think he's going to take the number 3 job if he keeps playing the way that he's playing right now.
He's an athletic freak.
Yeah,
Yes.
Tim Patrick's definitely someone to respect. He had a great end of the season last year for the Lions and played really good in that number 3 role. But again, this is a good problem to have. I think their offense has plenty of talent, so no matter who's running it, unless they're really running it into the ground, I feel like that it could be just as good as last year, if not better somehow.
100%.
Well, it's great that we all, as soon as he got, before he got drafted by the Lions, it was kind of like, oh my gosh, I hope he ends up in Detroit. Then he ends up in Detroit, and now he's doing all these great things, putting up these incredible numbers, touchdowns in back-to-back games. I mean, yeah, definitely great to see. Really rooting for the hometown kid here at News 8. But kind of going into, I'll say this, though, about that Miami game. The one thing that I will take away is the fact that I did not know that Zach Wilson was on the Dolphins.
Yeah.
And as soon as I saw him line up behind center, I was like, wait, what? What's going on?
He found his way there somehow.
Exactly.
He's still in the league, so.
Yeah, no, and so they've got one more preseason game. It's happening again this weekend. They're taking on the Houston Texans at Ford Field. Are we expecting starters to maybe get in there? Are we just thinking the Lions just want to get past everything, get everybody ready for week one?
It's always hard to tell with Dan Campbell sometimes just because, like, sometimes he likes to, I feel like, test his guys like that. And I feel like at practice they kind of go that hard anyway, but can't imagine if they did it'd be any more than a series. So maybe he does that just to get like some coordination down with the coordinators or something like that. I haven't really heard if they have announced if they're going to or not going to definitively. But yeah, that's what the only thing you can look for. Other than that, it'll probably be guys trying to make the team like right at the end that are going to get most of the playing time.
Yep.
All right, awesome stuff. Well, of course, we have to keep talking about football because we are so excited about something that is beginning next week, and that is the return of the Football Frenzy podcast. Dean and Andy are going to be putting that show back together, just in time for high school football here in West Michigan. How excited are you guys to be, again, kind of doing both podcasts? And we're going to keep the Sports Frenzy podcast going. The Football Frenzy podcast is going to be its own thing, giving everybody kind of some additional information. You know, I feel like a lot of people follow and want to keep up with the high school sports teams, and this is really the perfect way to do that.
Yeah, I'm super excited. Like, you know, last year Andy and I kind of kicked off, and you know, it was one of our ideas to kind of start a high school football podcast, and I think it was received very, very well. And you know, we were doing it in just a little podcast room down in the basement or whatever, and now we've kind of been able to kind of, you know, do it here and kind of expand things, and you know, so I'm really proud of what we were able to do last year. And I'm looking forward to just the second season of, you know, letting our viewers kind of know about the big games we're going to cover each week, and then kind of recapping some of the really big games and just talking about teams and players and stuff like that. Like, you know, we're going to provide as much information as we can, you know, on all these games, and obviously definitely the spotlight games. But you know, for me, it's just cool. Like, this is my favorite time of the season. It always has been, ever since I started reading for the Grandpa's Press, Friday nights. Like, after this Friday, I'll have no more open Friday nights, you know, which I love, right? And if we can avoid the weather and the rain and everything like that we kind of have to encounter,
great.
You know, I fingers crossed. But yeah, you know, like I said, Andy is a great kind of partner, you know, with me to do this, and obviously very knowledgeable, and so I'm super blessed to be able to do another season with him.
As he's being way too nice right now. He's definitely got more knowledge. He's been around a lot longer than I've been. But yeah, no, I'm excited to get back to it. I'm going to a scrimmage at the time tonight. At the time this is being recorded, actually, too, with the 4 teams being there. I'm excited to kind of get some real game sort of action in there and see what's going on with that. But yeah, obviously we've already been putting out some of our stories and some of the top 10 athletes according to 247 Sports, Alan True. So if you guys want to go out there and check some of that out, it's already out there to read. But yeah, before you know it, it's going to be back, and we're going to be out there every single Friday again. And yeah, Dean mentioned the weather last year was phenomenal. I think
every week.
I think we ended up getting rain at some point towards the end, or snow or something. I forget what it was, but it took until like late in the playoffs before we even had a week where it was like cold and hard to deal with, and really even that wasn't that bad. So I don't know if we'll get that lucky again. Last year where we did record our podcast, we used to joke with Ellen, one of our weather people, all the time about it. We were like, you have to keep it going this way, you can't change it up, you know, because she records stuff in there too. So yeah, hopefully she's able to give us more good vibes and keep it going in that direction, because it helps us a lot on Friday nights when it doesn't rain. That's for sure.
It was always the first thing we talked about. It was always the first topic, was whether Andy wore shorts or not, and how many weeks in a row did Andy wear shorts? You know, because it
was insane. It was like week 7, I think, when I stopped.
He just kept wearing shorts, and we like talked about the weather and stuff. Yeah.
I've always been critiqued that I can, like, it's never cold for me. I'm one of those kind of people. But I mean, still, it was like in the 60s, I think, even that late. I remember there was finally one game where, like, you know, it starts to get dark that late in the year at like, I don't know, like 7:30. Yeah, exactly already. And I remember I was like, oh, I regret this decision. So that's when I started to stop doing that. But I went as long as I could, and we went quite a ways with it. That's for sure. Yeah,
and I'll tell you this, Phil, we actually have some really good prospects in West Michigan. And like Andy said, we're doing the 1 through 10. We've talked to Jaden Terry from Granville.
George Duggins.
Yep, Tamarian Stewart from Mona Shores, really good running back. Obviously, Jaden Terry right now this is kind of crazy. His first 3 seasons at Granville, and story comes out on Thursday, over 5,000 yards. He's already the all-time leading rusher in the OK Red.
Wow.
So kind of crazy what Jaden Terry has done in his 3 years. Obviously helped that he played as a freshman. But yeah, and he's going to see our number 1 prospect tonight, like he said, over at West Ottawa, Richard Kitchen, right?
Yep.
Ricardo Kitchen.
Yep. Ricardo Kitchen. Yep.
Yep. So yeah, I
He
think
looks
it's
like
great.
a number 1 prospect.
Yeah, so I
that's
think
for
it's
sure.
great that
He
we're
should-
spotlighting all these top kids, and obviously, hopefully people are reading our stories, and so then kind of guys to watch as they go out to the Thursday, Friday night football games.
sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's the one thing I love about the Football Frenzy podcast is, like you guys said, you guys are highlighting the athletes that maybe people aren't going to be watching if they maybe tune into ESPN or something like that to get their sports news.
Yeah.
This is a different way to, again, get the local aspects and the local sides of these athletes. And they're going to be stars in their own right after they graduate from high school and going to be going on to college, possibly even the pros. So, again, that all starts here with the Football Frenzy podcast. That first episode is debuting next week. We are so excited about it. So, Dean and Andy, we'll see you guys again next week for 2 different podcasts here on Wood TV Plus.